rolling.
Hey, it's Joe here, Red's Fly Shop. I want to help you be prepared for your flats fishing trip with a couple of tips on just being ready on the bow and a couple of pointers for me. One of the first things I do when I'm up on deck is I just peel out what I feel is the appropriate amount of line. Some people will mark their lines with a Sharpie at whatever their preferred distance is. It could be 40 feet or 60 feet or whatever it happens to be. I can generally look at my line and know about how much out, but if you don't have as much experience, you might want to mark your line. The next thing I'll generally do is I'll take and I'll just throw out all this line. So it doesn't really matter where it goes, and I'm just going to say, okay, that's kind of my max efficient distance. The more line you have on the deck, the more problems you're going to have. You're going to have more tangles. Then I strip it back in, and I'll try to neatly pile it, and it's important to do that. That way the line that I need first to go shooting out is going to be on top. If I just peel it off my reel, the line I need first is on bottom, and I'm way more likely to get some tangles. So I'll strip that back in, neatly pile it up. A lot of times we'll have a second guide here that'll help you manage your line. And then as far as being in the ready position, there's lots of different ways to do it. This is my preferred method. I'll take my fly and I can just lay my fly on the deck or in the water, and I'll hold about 3/4 the way up my leader, and I want about a rod length of line out when I start so that I can generate some inertia really quickly and have less false casts. So the way this will work is I'm out here on the deck, I've got my leader here, and the wind is going to keep my line nice and tight and organized, and I'm going to keep my leader pinched here. When a fish is spotted, the first thing I want to do is I want to try to see the fish before I cast. It's a huge advantage if you just take a deep breath, you wait a moment, you put your eyes on the fish before you start flailing around, because once you start flailing around, you are so unlikely to see the fish. So if the shot gets called out, 45 feet, 11 o'clock, I'm going to go ahead and look out 45 feet, 11 o'clock, and I'm just going to let the fish reveal itself. If you try to look too hard, you're going to wind up seeing crap on the bottom. You're going to see sticks and dark spots and all sorts of things that are not fish. When I go to make my shot, there's a little trick you can do called a figure eight, and I'm just going to demonstrate that here. And it's something you can practice at home. Is I'm going to draw a sideways figure eight, and then I can bring my fly to speed, and I can make that 45 feet at 11 o'clock really quickly with that little bit of buildup. If I have a rod length of line out, it works great. If I don't have a rod length of line out, it's gonna require a couple of extra casts, so that's just wasted time. So that's gonna be how I take my initial shot. Now, a lot of times you're gonna have to recast. And one of the biggest mistakes people make, especially when you're a newbie to flats fishing, I've seen it happen a lot to myself and seen it happen to a lot of other anglers, is once that fly is sunk, it is very hard to pick it up out of the water. So I need to strip back up, and I'm going to strip on this particular line right to the edge of the orange and the blue, and I'm going to lift my rod first to bring the fly up, then I'm going to fire it back, and then I can send it back in like so. But that initial lift is really important, and then retrieving a good portion of your line, because even though I'm in a tailwind right now, if I can't get that line to get back behind me with enough energy, it's just going to have a bunch of slack. It's going to wind up in a big mess out there, and I'm going to miss my opportunity. So the recasting is really important, of stripping the line back in, raising the rod, then driving back, especially in a tailwind. A couple of other little tips. People ask about footwear all the time. You can wear shoes in the boat, not wear shoes in the boat. I tend to just wear socks when I'm on the deck, and if your feet get hot, you can dip them in the water and cool them off, but then I don't have to put sunscreen all over my feet. Keeps me from getting sunburnt, and then if I throw my wading shoes on, the socks can go right in there, and it protects my feet. I don't wear my lanyard or any pliers around my neck. If I do, I'll tuck them inside my shirt just to keep it away from my line right here. And then if you have pliers on your hip and you know a shot is imminent, take and put your shirt over your hip pliers so that your line can't get caught on your hip pliers as well. When it comes to your drag setting, a little on the light side is good. If we end up having the line get around the rod like this, which can happen, that little bit lighter drag setting, this happens from time to time, and that little bit lighter drag setting is going to give you a little bit of forgiveness so that you can reach down, you can fix that, or the guide will help you fix it, and then we can always tighten the drag after the first run or two. But what we can't do is we can't correct a drag that was far too tight. especially when we might make a mistake or an error in that initial run on the fish. When it comes to shooting your line, this is another like real common thing that happens. So if I'm gonna make a shot on fish, and let's just say I'm gonna shoot off the 9 o'clock. So we got a 9 o'clock, like 50 feet, and I'm gonna go ahead and make my shot. You can see the wind is blowing my line all over my reel, all over my hands, and if I just let go of this line right here, I'm gonna have a lot of problems with the line getting around my reel, and then I'm gonna snap a fish off if and when I hook it. So what I strongly recommend, if we're not just throwing a long blind cast, if we're actually targeting a fish, I'm gonna strip up, I'm gonna follow my own rules, then I'm gonna raise, then drive it back, and I'm gonna make another shot, but I'm never gonna let go of it with my left hand. So I've got it pinched right here. And if I feel the cast going badly, like I'm just losing it, like I'm here, and all of a sudden I'm just losing it, and it's a total mess, if I have a hold of the line still, then I can correct my cast. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feather that line and let it slide through my hands so that I'm in the strip immediately when that hits, because there's always gonna be several feet of slack. So I come into the strip. So let me demonstrate that one more time. We always keep the line with a hold with our line hand. I'm gonna generate a little speed. I'm gonna come here. I'm already in the strip and my slack is already out of the line immediately. And then if my guide's talking me through, you know, when to strip, when to stop, I'm already here and ready with my hands very low and my hands out in front of me as well, so that I can set if I need to, depending on the species and how hard I need to set the hook. So those are a couple of tips. That's certainly not everything you need to know, but if you're a first-time flats angler, hopefully some of that's going to be helpful for you and you can make the most out of your trip in the saltwater.